Excellent. Hi, guys. Welcome once again to another episode of Finance for Founders. Today, I am fortunate to be having a very, very wonderful guest in our midst. There is a saying that if you can't see it, you can't be it. And for years, the tech world, especially blockchain, was a space where women were rarely seen, rarely heard, or often overlooked. But my guest today is changing that narrative one conversation at a time. Lavinia is an award-winning blockchain consultant, an international speaker, and the founder of Women in Blockchain Talks, a platform that is on a mission to bring 50,000 women into the world of blockchain and Web3. Her work has been recognized globally, from LinkedIn Top Voice in Tech to YRX Rising Women in Crypto Power List. But what really stands out is her passion for making complex topics simple, for bringing people together, and for creating opportunities where none existed before. We'll be talking about why she's so passionate about the diversity and inclusion in tech, how she's overcome the challenges of building business in a male-dominated industry, and what her vision is for the future of blockchain. But more importantly, we explore the person behind the mission, her personal journey, her doubts, her dreams, and what truly drives her. This is a conversation about leadership, legacy, and creating a future where everyone has a seat at the table. Lavinia, you are welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm perfect. Thank you so much. And it's great to be here.
Fantastic. My first question will be to tell us a little bit about you. But before we do, we have something we do on our podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And what we do are a few quick fire questions so that our audience get to know a little bit about you. Right?
Sounds good.
So the answer is no more than 5 seconds. Very simple question. And then we'll go straight into it. Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Favorite holiday destination?
Barcelona.
Favorite movie?
Ooh. All right, I'm just going to give you one. Colour purple.
Okay. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Eating in or eat it out?
Eating.
Eating?
Yeah.
Favorite dish?
Jerk chicken. Rice and peas. Coleslaw.
And what do you like to do in your downtime?
Sleep.
Anything else?
Netflix and chill. And exercise, I would say. I love to exercise.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Books or podcasts?
Books.
Fantastic. And welcome once again, Lavinia, to the podcast. For our audience, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Sure. So I would say that I am a very intentional person. And that was one of the reasons why I started Women in Blockchain Talks, because I saw there was not enough women or diverse founders or diverse individuals in this space.
Yeah.
And, I think it's important that particularly women lead from the front rather than chase from behind.
Yeah.
Emerging tech and the opportunities that are being created because of the fast-paced nature of blockchain, AI, virtual reality, it's here for us for the taking. We just have to apply ourselves. And I know that's easier said than done.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to make it easier for individuals by creating that pathway. And also, as you stated at the beginning, let people see that it is possible, because you need to see that change. And also representation matters. So sometimes you need to see someone who looks like you, or someone you can relate to, be it because I am a woman of colour or because I am a woman who is doing the do. It's not easy, but at the end of the day, being true to your calling, to your passion, is never really 100% going to be easy. But because you have that passion, it just makes you easier to deal with the trials and tribulations and the challenges that come with it. But I love what I do. I love connecting. I love teaching. I love training. And I love giving people a light, a spark to make them see that they belong in this world. And when I say this world, the world of emerging tech.
Yeah.
And just to kind of reiterate what I'm trying to say here is that most times people are consumers of products. And what's important to me is women and people from diverse backgrounds are the creators rather than just the consumers.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your background. How you got so passionate about women in tech, how you got so passionate in blockchain. And when I say your background, your upbringing, the challenges you face and why you're so passionate about it.
Sure. So one of the reasons why blockchain resonated with me is because it is a disruptive technology. A lot of people don't really appreciate the egalitarian values that blockchain stands for. So it is about removing that middleman, that gatekeeper, and how many of us listening to this podcast have felt like there has been a gatekeeper or someone stopping them from getting access. Accessibility is so important. Accessibility creates equity,
Yeah.
and equity creates equality and inclusion. So the reason why I felt really drawn to blockchain was because one of the key elements or one of the key industries it has disrupted and continues to disrupt is finance.
Okay.
And before I started Women in Blockchain Talks, I had a consultancy called Butterfly Wealth Creation, and it was all about your relationship with money, how you think, feel about it, and what you do with it, because it all starts with our stories, the stories that we're told, and the stories that we then tell ourselves. And financial well-being has an impact on other areas of our well-being, be it our mental, physical. So financial well-being is super important to me, and it was a key component to the work that I did with Butterfly Wealth Creation. Now, why was financial well-being so important to me? I come from a one-parent family. My mom had twins at the age of 19, and then she left. I was born in Nottingham, and she left Nottingham, and my twin sister and I grew up with my grandmother and my younger cousin. And my grandmother was a stoic Christian Jamaican woman. I learnt a lot from her, and I still, think about her with fond memories and just the values that she taught me. But it was grandmother, my mother, aunties, no men. And so growing up, one of the things, and I talk about it in a talk that I did a few years ago that you can find on YouTube. I'll share the link with you. And in that talk, I just was talking about how, in my mind, I equated money with men. So if you had a father in the household or a uncle or something like this, those were the breadwinners, the men. They were the ones who go out and make the big bucks. And therefore, if there was a man around, your father, grandfather, uncle, then they would be able to, you would have a better financial state. But of course, as I've grown up, I understand that is not necessarily true. Just because someone could be the breadwinner doesn't necessarily mean a man could be a breadwinner, doesn't necessarily mean that they're good with money. Everybody has different stories. Sometimes you're too frugal, sometimes you're too generous. And if you don't have a balance, then it can create financial upheaval in one's life. But in my young mind, that's what I saw, because there was no father around, and there was no, male strong role models. So for me, I wanted to make a difference, and one of it was not getting pregnant, being a teenage mom, or being a single mom. So, I was very much about go to school, get a good education, get a good job, as Robert Kiyosaki talks about in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I did all those things. And then I was doing really well for myself. I lived in Barcelona. After university, I worked a year or so, and then I moved to Barcelona. I got a job with Citibank. It was really well paid, good pay. I was the first one in my family to buy a property, the first one in my family to work in the city. I was like the first in the family to do all these things, because I didn't want to. And my mum was very ambitious, and she did great with the cards that were dealt to her, and she didn't have the support that she needed to expand herself. So in a way, even though she was my mum, I wanted to be that person to help her.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm honest, that was one of my drivers. I wanted to help my mum, right? And like I said, she was very smart and very ambitious, and she propelled that ambition in me, and she believed in me, which is a wonderful thing. Because when I hear some people talk about their relationships with their parents, my mum was far from perfect, but in that regard, it's like you could be anything that you put your mind to.
Yeah.
So, cut a long story short, that is what drove me. And when I understood blockchain, I was like, maybe this is the way to create equity for the many, and especially for women. And that's why I'm so passionate about women being in blockchain. And as I said before, not just about being a consumer of blockchain products, but also being creators, adding their voice, their value, and their perspective to what is created in this new paradigm shift, which is very tech heavy.
I love that. What other values would you say that you were transferred from your grandmother to you when growing up that you've seen whilst building up your business as well?
I would say my faith, for sure. My grandmother was a stoic Christian woman, you know. She prayed all the time, read her Bible, you know, and of course she was far from perfect. But as I always say, everybody was doing the best that they could with the tools that they had at that time. And one of the things that is very important to me is not to limit myself just because I'm a woman or just because I am a woman of color. I'm not about that. I know there are restrictions when we look at funding, the funding gap between, you know, male founders and women founders. It's like 2%. The women get 2%, not that there's 2% between the two.
Yeah.
And then women from diverse backgrounds is even less than
Yeah.
2%. But my faith and my belief is that what is for you will not go past you. Like I said before, it doesn't mean it will be easy, but you got to have that perseverance, and that's where the passion and the intention comes from. And I am my grandmother's, my mother's, and my ancestors', you know, dream come true.
Yeah.
I'm able to do so much more than what they were able to do just because of their life choices and the time. So I run with it, and I run with it with full passion and full joy and full of life, because I just feel so grateful and so privileged to be able to be in this time where there are so many opportunities, and I'm just and that's what drives me, and I'm able to do that because of my faith and being able to go back to my source because I know who I belong to.
Fantastic. So you mentioned that you had started your consultancy, but talk us through the transition into actually blockchain.
So so the key thing about being an entrepreneur is that you have to create your own opportunities. You have to seek them out. And the transition from having butterfly wealth creation, I became burnt out, which is something that is very common with entrepreneurs. And because of that, I had to take some time out. And in that time, I started to learn more about Bitcoin and then blockchain. And at the time, I thought Bitcoin. So this is when I say at the time, uh, this was 2016, call it. And the Bitcoin white paper was published in 2008 off the back of the global recession, the global crisis. And that's when I started my journey, interestingly enough, my entrepreneurship journey, because like many people, I was made redundant. And at that time in 2008, I started to learn about financial education, you know. And again, I go back to Rich Dad Poor Dad, the education that is not taught at school for most of us. And so that was an eye opener for me. And I think it's very important to say, when I started that journey in 2008, and I was walking that path towards becoming an entrepreneur, I didn't feel like I was not even good enough, but I hadn't seen anyone around me who was an entrepreneur. So it was very disconcerting for me. And I had to work through a lot of internal challenges about what is an entrepreneur, what do they look like, and that I could be. You know, I felt like a imposter.
Yeah.
But I pushed through, even though it was so hard. I pushed through. And so, anyhow, I was going through this moment. It's now 2016. I was going through 2016, 2017, and I was burnt out. And then, you know, doing what I do or I did with my consultancy, my financial well-being consultancy, you have to understand the past, the present, and the future of finances. So you need to understand what it's evolving to and what's coming onto the market, what's coming onto the landscape. And so yes, I started hearing about Bitcoin and blockchain, and then I wanted to investigate it more. And at the time, I thought Bitcoin and blockchain, like many people, were the same, but they are not. Blockchain is the technology behind Bitcoin, right? So I then decided that I thought it would be a good idea for me to work so that I could learn on the job, because that's how I learn best.
Yeah.
And I was very fortunate to find a job at a startup. And it was amazing because I did get to learn on the job. There was lots of people who'd been in the blockchain or the crypto space, hackers, you know, all of those sorts of people, because those were the people who started,
Yeah.
you know, grassroots people were the hackers, the coders, and
Yeah.
coders dabbled in hacking, right?
Yeah.
And there's different forms of hacking, just to be clear, right? It's not always negative. I mean, if you've got the CIA and other institutions like that hiring hackers, you know, it can be used for good as well as bad. Anyway, so, you know, I was able to get a job, and then I worked with that company for a number of years. But as I was working in that space and in the industry, I noticed there wasn't a lot of women. I mean, even at the company I worked at, I was the first female hire. And then off the back of an event that I did, we had more women come into the business. And so, yeah, I started Women in Blockchain Talks simply because I saw there was a need of more women. And I started it as a meetup. It was just a meetup, and then it just grew from there. And it's become, you know, Women in Blockchain Talks, the ecosystem with global chapters around the world, including Tampa, UK, Dubai, Manchester, Barcelona,
Wow.
Berlin, Zimbabwe. So, yeah, we've definitely made a mark, and we've touched many people's lives. And in doing that, I've also helped many women to step up and become leaders in their own right. And there's different forms of leadership, but, you know, and
Wow.
I'm very proud of that.
That's amazing. Was there a point that you made the decision that I am going to start this thing? So we spoke about your background. It's something you've always been passionate about. But maybe when you began to work for that startup, you saw an injustice that you said, no, I'm not taking this anymore. Now's the time for to start it. Is there a moment that you can go back to say this was the moment that actually birthed Women in Blockchain Talk?
Yes, there is, but it was quite interesting. It's a good question. So the moment came was, so I left my position at the startup, and when I left it, I had been using meetup.com or .org. I can't remember what the folder, but Meetup for a long time. And it's a great resource if you just want to start learning about a subject matter and join a community, right? And so I had seen so when I was working at the startup, I would go to different blockchain Web3 meetups. And then when I was on Meetup, I saw this community. So how it works with Meetup, you can, you know, create a community, build it, but then for whatever reason, maybe you might leave Meetup. So it doesn't just close the community down. It allows one of the members in that Meetup to take over it, right? So I saw, and it was at the time, it was just called Women in Blockchain. And I saw
it wasn't yours.
So it wasn't mine in the
Initially.
first instance. Yeah, it wasn't mine in the first instance. And so I then saw it and I was like, oh, let me take over it. But at the time, I wasn't doing anything, right? I just was like, I think I'd like to do something, but right now I just wasn't in the headspace to do anything.
Yeah.
And then what had happened was the person who had created the group initially, they had set up so that the meetups would happen once every month or something like this, and it automatically created it.
Yeah.
And I'm sharing all of this because it's just about purpose and also alignment, and also just, again, what's for you won't go past you.
Yeah.
So I remember clearing a number of the upcoming events when I first took over. And then I didn't go into it for a really long time, like a couple of months or something like this. And then I went into it and I saw that there was a meetup scheduled. And I was like, how did that happen? And it was only afterwards that I realized that it was automatically scheduling the meetups.
Yeah.
And this particular meetup had 70 people signed up to it. And I was like, whoa. And
you were in charge at this point.
I was in charge at this point. But like I said, I hadn't made any clear, concrete plans. And I didn't know. And I deleted all the previous meetups thinking that's that, not realizing it was automatically recreating them or, scheduling them. So I go in after a few months and I see this one for 70 people signed up. And I was like, ooh, what am I going to do here? And so at that time, I was starting to, because there were certain things that happened when I left my position at the startup and I just needed to take some time out. And so, which was one of the reasons I hadn't really been looking at that page. And so it kind of pulled me out of my stupor, if you want to, if for a better choice of word. And I was like, oh, I need to do something because I didn't want to let all these people who signed up for this event down. So I was fortunate enough to book. I mean, there is a story behind this, honestly. It was at Google campus. So before lockdown, and because Google campus shut down and now it's reopened.
Yeah.
And it reopened at the end of last year, but it's not called Google Campus anymore, but it's still Google. And they weren't even, it wasn't publicly known that you could book this room. Now, 2 years prior to me booking, so we're talking about 2019, summer 2019. So at that time, they'd made the booking form private.
Yeah.
But because I'd used them before, like a couple of years back, I still had the booking form to use it to book. So I booked, and then I get a phone call saying, oh, you can't book. You have to be like a member, or I can't remember what the reasoning was, but I wasn't supposed to have that link and I wasn't supposed to be able to book. But then after I was like, but I've told everybody this is happening now, blah, 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 blah. So she gave me a bly and said, okay, you can use it. So my first ever event was at Google Campus, know? And it was just a blessing. So all these people came. It wasn't 70 people. It was like 20, 30 people. And I'd already been, because I was starting to dabble in this space, I got talking to this lady and I said, would you just talk about your journey? So we did the event, and off the back of it, so many people came up to me and said, Lavinia, that was amazing. Most of the events I go to about blockchain, et cetera, is male-dominated, male-led. I don't feel very comfortable. And this was the best event that I've been to, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm onto something here. So cut a long story short, I took a little bit of time out because I needed to think about how I was going to do it. And then I went to another event that was blockchain orientated. And I was just like, yeah, I really want to do this. And so September 2019 was the first official event for Women in Blockchain Talks. And I changed the name to Women in Blockchain Talks because I was like, that's what women do. Women are great at that. We talk. And I said I wanted to be the Oprah of blockchain.
So that means no men are invited.
So no. So just to make that clear, Women in Blockchain Talks is women created, women led, women focused. However, it's open to all genders because, as we like to say in the Caribbean, one hand cannot clap, and we need to work together in order to make the difference. But we are focused on women and uplifting, propelling women, and also diverse founders, and of course not diverse founders, but diverse individuals, and of course that can be male, female, or other.
I love that. Are you still in contact with the person that started the group?
Well, this is the interesting thing. I tried to find her. Sent messages. I looked for her on LinkedIn, on Facebook, could not find it. It's like she just disappeared.
Oh, wow.
So I've never conversed or talked or nothing
Yeah.
with this individual. And that's what I'm saying. It was like from that, me taking over the group to me getting the Google campus to hold the first event. And then in September 2019, I did my first event at Rise Barclays because they've got a beautiful space there.
Yeah.
And that even when I started the startup, the blockchain startup, the offices were in that building.
Oh, wow.
So it kind of was a full circle, and then COVID happened, right? So I started, my first event was September 2019. My last event was February 2020, and then COVID hit. And thankfully, because of my entrepreneurial background, I knew how to pivot online.
Yeah.
So I just pivoted online, and that was the moment that I kind of blew up because I was able to go global rather than just stay local. And then in the when we came back, September 2021, I think it was, my first event, official event or in-person event, again, was at Barclays Rise.
Wow.
So again, full circle. So, when I look back on the journey, it was definitely meant to be. And, there's so many people who have helped me, and I'm very, very grateful for that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. To just to hear your whole story. I think one of the things that really stands out to me, the saying that when preparation meets opportunity,
Yeah.
then success is inevitable. And I think that even though you were handed that particular thing, right, that platform, the reality is that if you had not prepared for it, you wouldn't be in a position to actually own it and take over it. The fact that you had the passion for it, that you took it, you drove it, you ran with it, and so on and so forth. So I think that's fantastic as a reminder that even though we may get the opportunities, we also have to be prepared and get ourselves prepared for when those opportunities meet us.
Yeah.
I was going to say, in terms of your Women in Blockchain talk, in fact, before we do it, just tell the audience how often, where you hold your events and how often you meet for anybody out there that wants to be going to any of your events.
Sure. Well, the best place to find out about our upcoming events is our website, Women in Blockchain Talks. Also, if you are on LinkedIn, and you should be on LinkedIn, then you can find us. We have a company page with thousands of followers, and we also put our events up there. So those are the two key places. And of course, Meetup, if you just, put in Women in Blockchain Talks and you will find us there. So we hold events. So generally how we do our global chapters is that we try to do 4 events a year. So do 4 events a year in Manchester, 4 events in Barcelona, 4 events in London. But then in addition to that, we also do a lot of online events, and we also do workshops. So depending, on what you're looking for, there are different events that you can join us on. And also if you're a member of Women in Blockchain Talks, then there are other opportunities for you to join us. But generally speaking, our global chapters happen throughout the year. So it's just a question of keeping updated with our events page. And again, you can find that on www.womeninblockchaintalks.com. Thank you.
What would you say has been your biggest barrier in the industry, and even starting Women in Blockchain Talks? What has been your biggest barriers that you have faced as a woman of color as well? Talk us through it as well.
Sure. Starting Women in Blockchain Talks, there was nothing to stop me. You know, when you're an entrepreneur, you just make things happen,
I
right?
agree.
You buy the domain name, you start it. And what I would say is that Women in Blockchain Talks, the traction has been greater than anything else I have started, been quicker and greater.
Yeah.
Now, the issue one has is monetizing, because you could start many things, right? But how do you monetize it?
Very
And
true.
that has been challenging. It's been challenging because unfortunately, blockchain as a technology is a technology, and without it, crypto, Bitcoin can't run. However, the industry, the blockchain ecosystem, Web3, NFTs, all the rest of it, is powered by crypto,
Yeah.
right? So if the crypto market is down, i.e., bear run, then not a lot of things happen.
Yeah.
You know, people kind of pull out. And there's been a lot of volatility within the crypto market for a long time. It is very volatile.
Yeah.
And it's going to take time, you know, particularly until the right regulation and compliance comes in. And we have had that to a degree. And in some ways, it's kind of stemmed the innovation, okay, and accessibility for many. But if you know how to get around that, there are ways, but that's not what this call is about. And I'm not recommending anything in regards to that. But the point that I'm saying is that, you know, with innovation comes opportunities, but opportunities for many people, including the bad characters in this space,
Yeah.
right? The scammers.
Yeah.
Therefore, you need innovation and you need regulation and you need compliance. However, those things can also stem the innovation,
Yeah.
right? So it is a hard balancing act. And then when there's a bull run, then it becomes more buoyant. People are more willing to spend money, etc., etc. So I've seen many people win and lose in this market, and not just in regards to the value of their crypto go up and then the value of it decrease, but in the sense of their podcast is about blockchain, crypto, Bitcoin, NFTs, and everything. You know, they're getting sponsorships and everything's moving, and it's like, whoa, I can actually make money from what I love. And then the market goes down, and then the sponsorship is pulled, and then
Yeah.
you know. So for me, being an entrepreneur, and also, I'm just going to keep it real, being a woman, particularly a woman of color, I already know it's hard.
Yeah.
So for some people, it's like they face these challenges come because maybe their level of ease is a lot higher than mine. Yeah. So when the hard times come, it's like a real big,
Yeah.
you know, difference sort of thing. But for me, it's always hard. It's
Yeah.
not easy. It's never been easy. And so my level of resilience and fortitude is I have a lot more of it than some other people.
Yeah.
Okay? And I'm not saying white people or white women. I'm not saying that, because people have level of resilience for various reasons. I can only talk about myself and what I see in the marketplace. I've seen people come and go. I'm still here. And my opinion and my experience is that I feel that I've had to work harder than most. And what I mean by work harder, I'm talented and I'm also super smart. I don't feel any way about saying that. I am super smart. But it's about consistency.
Yeah.
And that's one of my superpowers. I'm consistent.
Show up
And
daily.
so, sorry?
Showing up daily.
Showing up daily.
Yeah.
And I have done that consistently since 2017.
Wow.
And so, since I started, since I started Women in Blockchain Talks, 2019, 2019, I have won an award every single year. So anybody who's in this space, generally speaking, know who I am, and they have to put respect to my name because they see what I've done. I've done it grassroots, no funding, no big sponsorship, and I've just grafted.
I love that.
So I would say that there has been challenges, and those challenges has just been, you still have gatekeepers, and some of those gatekeepers have access or did have access to the more kind of affluent market of crypto, digital assets, etc., etc. And sometimes people can say certain things about you, and people will just believe it simply because of the way that you look. They won't question it, and they'll believe it because of who it is coming from, without questioning it. And I've had that.
Yeah.
And so there's certain things that I've had to deal with that many people are not aware of, and I'm not going to go into it right now, but I think you can have an idea by what I've just said. Privilege is privilege, right? Let's just put it that way. And so I've had to deal with that, but I'm still here, and I'm proud of myself for that. And by God's grace, I will continue to be here. And I believe this is my year to really stand out, to really shine, and to also reap the seeds that I've sowed. So, yeah.
I love that. There's a twofold question I want to ask you. Number one, what is blockchain? And the reason I ask that, I think that when we hear Bitcoin and blockchain, a lot of people run away from it. It's somewhat intimidating. As though you're explaining it to a 12-year-old. What is blockchain?
So blockchain ultimately is a digital ledger, okay? So there is a term called DLT, Distributed Ledger Technology. So blockchain technology, because it's a tech, falls under DLT, a distributed ledger, right? And I think the best way to describe this is if you think of an Excel sheet, right? You generally create that file, and then you would put in the outgoings and the ingoings, right? So you're recording the data, the movement of an asset, right? You own that. And then you are the one who can stop someone from seeing it, even if you've given them permission before. With blockchain, and when I talk about blockchain, I generally talk about it as a public ledger, okay? A public distributed ledger. And so think of Ethereum, think of Bitcoin, because, that's the one that most people are familiar with. And with that public distributed ledger, you're able to see the movement of assets. And because of that, that means there's transparency, trackability, and traceability. Yeah. It's immutable, so I can't go in and change it because there's nodes. Nodes are like mini computers, and they're all over. You can't, there's nothing to say there's one in Hong Kong, in this place. It's just all online, right? And if somebody tries to manipulate the data, the other nodes are like, no, that's not in alignment, and therefore it kicks out that change, so to speak. And so it's trustworthy, right? It's about not having to give your trust to a third party, because you can now have access to the information and it's valid because it's the same thing that I'm seeing around the world. Yeah. So that's what blockchain is. It's ultimately a tech, but it's a distributed ledger, and that information is recorded. And you have to access it, generally speaking, through a wallet. And so that wallet can be a wallet that you own, or it could a custodian wallet or non-custodian. Non-custodian, you own the wallet. A custodian wallet, it could be a wallet through Coinbase, so to speak, right? So another way of just explaining about blockchain and its ecosystem, think of blockchain technology as train tracks, okay? And then you have the trains. The trains are the different blockchain platforms. So like, again, Ethereum, Solana, Bitcoin. And these trains have carriages, and then it has a cargo carriage. And in that, you have gold bricks, you have pictures, you have music records. The gold bricks is the cryptocurrency, the native cryptocurrency, represents the native cryptocurrency of that platform. So Solana would be Sol, Bitcoin would be Bitcoin, Ethereum would be Ether. And then you have the pictures, which would be NFT that you can burn or print, not print. I can't remember what the term is now, but you can create on that platform. And then the music is the NFTs that are kind of you can listen to and what have you. And then all the trains will go into different train stations. And then when sometimes when the train stops at a station, you'll see the people who work at the train station put a ramp, right? So we use a term in the whole blockchain digital asset space called on-ramp, off-ramping. So on-ramping means that you're turning your fiat currency, so your pound, your yen, your euro, your dollars, into a cryptocurrency. So that would be the cryptocurrency of that train. So Bitcoin, Solana, Ethereum. And then off-ramping means that you're changing that cryptocurrency back into the fiat. And then, of course, at a station, you have different shops, or you might even have a financial place there where you can, change your money, or you will have, different things. And this is how the ecosystem is built. You need the platforms, but you also need the off-ramping, the on-ramping. You also need the different shops where you can buy the certain products, or you can interchange with each other. And that's what we're building. And this is why I say everybody can build their skills and their values to this space. And it's important that there is that diversity, because in creating that diversity, we can create products and a new ecosystem that is for everyone rather than just the few.
I love that. In fact, you've given me a much clearer understanding just by those analogies. Why is 50,000 significant to you? Now, for those of us that are listening online, the community right now of women in blockchain talks is about 7,000.
No, it's actually more than that. So we have a following on LinkedIn of about 7,000, and then we've got our private platform, and then we have a number of there, and then across all social medias, it kind of adds up to about 10,000.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Why is 50,000 significant? Now, for those of us that don't know, one of the visions is to have 50,000 women members.
Yeah.
Why is that significant?
50,000 was a number that I plucked out. I mean, it's a strong number, right? And it's going to take time to get there. But, sometimes it just takes that one viral thing and then everything blows up, right? So like I say, when it's your time, right? But it was just a number that I plucked, and I think it's a good number. And I think 50,000, it just solidifies your position in the market. And also it's a nice, like I said, it's just a nice number. But and ultimately what I wanted with this, it's just about, we do a lot of outreach, and it's simply about letting people know that there is first of all, about blockchain, why it's important, what it's got to do with them, simplifying it, and also what it has got to do with them and how they can add their value. So it doesn't matter to me if you are someone who just wants to make your money work harder and you want to diversify. We can help you with that. How to set up a wallet, how to start investing in this alternative way. Or you could be someone who wants to switch your career, or someone who wants to start a business in this space. You might not, or who's a coder and want to switch their career to coding for blockchain, because there's a technical element and there's non-technical. You don't necessarily have to be technical in order to be in blockchain. You just need to be a visionary or even a leader, because there are people who are technical. You just have to pay them in order to do what needs to be done in regards to coding in order to create what you want to create.
Fantastic. Just two more questions.
Yeah.
So the first one, you've been recognized as a top voice at many awards. How does that make you feel?
great. Yeah, it makes me feel appreciated, and it makes me feel recognized, of course. But if I'm honest with you, and it's important to have it, but then I have all these followers. I know I'm great at what I do. I'm one of the best in the world, full stop, point blank. But sometimes when you feel like, okay, why am I not getting that sort of monetization or getting the 50,000 like that? Maybe it's a little bit of impatience. Maybe it's the market, timing, whatever. It sometimes makes you feel like I have all these things. I should be like, and people think that sometimes, but patience is a beautiful thing, because what I have found, even though it's hard, but what I have found, and this is me talking as an entrepreneur now, you need to, and it goes back to what you were saying, you have to be prepared.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're like, you want it now, but you're not ready for it now, because when you have that level of success, you got to understand it also comes with a responsibility, and it also comes with a negative aspect. Was I ready for it back then? Am I fully ready for it now? I'm more ready for it than I was before. So sometimes you have to be patient, because there's certain things that God, circumstances, situations that will help you be prepared. So when it comes, you know how to handle 360 rather than 180. Because what's worse is waiting for it, receiving it, and losing it because you weren't prepared.
Have you ever suffered imposter syndrome?
Of course, yeah. Like, I remember I said when I started my entrepreneurial journey, because I'd never seen anyone be an entrepreneur, I suffered from it a lot. And, as a woman and a black woman, I hear the messages. Even if I choose not to believe it, I hear the messages all the time. And so when I walk into a room, I do know I'm the only one in the room looking like me. And that's a responsibility that I cherish and I appreciate. But sometimes it's a lot, because you're not just talking for yourself, you're talking for your community.
Absolutely.
You want people to be like, oh, that was a positive experience, and that positive experience then expands to others who look like you.
Absolutely.
And I think some people just don't get it, But when you've had to carry, I don't want to say burden, I'm going to say responsibility, all of your life, it just becomes normalized. But it is a responsibility, and sometimes it is a heavy load as well.
And so for the future of women in blockchain talk and blockchains in general, what does the future hold? A lot of people think that blockchain and Bitcoin, it will fizzle out at some point. According to you, what is the future for blockchain, Bitcoin, and women in tech talk?
Women in tech talk, women in blockchain talk.
Blockchain talk.
Yeah,
sorry.
no worries.
I'm gonna edit that.
Yeah, that's okay. I would say blockchain is here to stay, just like AI is here to stay. You can't reverse what has already been done.
Yeah.
And you have many banks, financial institutions utilizing blockchain. They're just not talking about it. Okay. When I think the best analogy here is a smartphone. Right? Smartphones have been around for 20, 25, nearly 30 years. And we've seen it evolve, continuously evolve. Most people have a smartphone, utilize a smartphone. They might not understand the technology behind it unless they are tech orientated and in that space, but we're using it. We're consumers of it. And that goes back to my point again about not just being a consumer, but also being a creator if we want to see change and difference. Yeah. We can't talk about, the man's not giving us the opportunity. Did you create the opportunity? Did you seek the opportunity? And this is just to anyone. I don't care what your color or your gender is. You have to seek the opportunity, right? And blockchain, there's more accessibility in this space than other tech spaces, in my opinion. So my thing is that just like the smartphone has evolved, blockchain is going to continue to evolve. What it evolves into, that's dependent on all of us, right? So it is here to stay. Blockchains are here to stay. Tokenization, which is a part of the blockchain ecosystem, you can't have tokenization without blockchain because you need the smart contracts. This is going to have a huge impact in how we interact with products and services. So, particularly house purchases and stuff like that, right? We're not fully there yet because there's a lot of regulation and compliance to be done, but we will get there.
Yeah.
And so it's very important that we stay aware of this, and it's going to have an impact on the future of work. How do we work? How do we interact?
Absolutely.
And this is why I offer training, upskilling training, blockchain 101, what it means to you, so that you have a base understanding. And then if you want to take it further, then of course, there's different ways of doing that. So yes, it's here to stay. And it's important that all of us are aware of that and understand it. And then
And the future of women in blockchain talk.
again, we're here to stay. We want to tokenize what we're doing. We've built our ecosystem. We're always looking for sponsors, people who want to work with us, who want to help, put forward their brand and also the mission. And yeah, we've got a lot of things going on. Continue to expand, continue to do outreach, continue to create leaders, and just be of value in the blockchain space, because there isn't really that many people doing what I'm doing and doing it the way that I do, hence why I win the awards that I do.
Fantastic. Guys, I hope you've really, really enjoyed yourself. Honestly, I've really, really thoroughly enjoyed you here. Honestly, I would say that you're one of the easiest guests. I don't want it to look negative on anybody else, right? But you've been an absolute pleasure to have. Guys, remember to tune in. As usual, be here next week. Like, subscribe, and share. And once more, thank you for listening to another episode of Finance for Founders. See you all next week. Take care.
Thank you.